For more than 40 years, media views of Poland were drab, gray, and colorless. Even in the early 90s, all anyone had to do was ride the Polish railways to see what Russian dominance did in this country. Everywhere were the remains of garbage, unfinished projects, and the stark Russian style of architecture. Although some of this neglect is still evident, Poland has been diligent in cleaning up these remains and moving toward a Western way of life. In this series, we'll visit cities and towns and a little of Poland's countryside. Poland and its everyday non-tourist people. Poland is indeed a place where a Westerner can visit and come away with the knowledge that this is a unique place with a beauty all of its own. Our first town on our tour is the skiing resort area of Zakopane, located near the border with Czech. Our visit was in early summer when everything is green and new. Although Zakopane has a very long skiing season, it retains its country atmosphere even in the warmer months. If one spends any time touring Poland, the name Orbis is bound to catch your eye. Orbis is Poland's most famous hotel chain, with one or more hotels in most every town. Zakopane's private homes have a special design. This design is to accommodate heavy snowfall during its skiing season, and are often made of wood instead of concrete. Poland's religious beliefs are 98% Catholic, and Zakopane's quiet streets lend themselves to Polish Catholic pageantry. Often the entire town turns out. Tourists as well. Perhaps the most Western and innovative city in Poland is its former capital. Kraków offers a location, south-central Silesia, that affords great day trips to Częstochowa, Wieluszka, Oświęcim, and Brzezinka, also known as Auschwitz-Birkenau. Kraków managed to make a flying start on westernization and caters to tourism. In the Stare Miasta, or Old Town Square, artists sell their wares. Day trip agents abound, restaurants are everywhere, and a large stage for entertainment can be found. A large structure called the Cloth Hall stands in the middle of the square, where a fantastic assortment of competitively priced Polish souvenirs can be found. This building is very old, but well preserved, and it is surrounded by cathedrals and other important Polish monuments. Photo opportunities are everywhere here, and if you have the time, do yourself a favor and take a tram or a cab to see a truly great museum that is truly ancient and is known as Wawel Castle. Wawel is a genuine castle that stands on the banks of the Wisła River and has become the repository of most of Poland's historic treasures. Poland had a habit of electing their kings, and many of their ornate sarcophagi are located within Wawel's walls. has the time, one can take advantage of the beautiful parks and ample benches as well. Although this is a fast-paced city, only a few steps away, relative peace can be found here. One suggestion after finding your hotel accommodations, invest in a city map and learn how to use the tram system. Actually, doing this will afford you with the option of independence to really see Krakow, and it is worth seeing. One of the oldest industries in Poland is the mining of salt. Northeast of Zakopane, in the south-central area, is the little town of Wieliczka. Here salt has been mined for centuries. These mines have not only given up this precious resource, but have also become a national draw. As the miners removed salt, some of the more artistic-minded became sculptors too. Deep below ground, the salt caverns were carved out into beautiful rooms. Although the salt is rather colorless, the carvings are magnificent in nature. Well-placed lighting reveals the beauty of these sculptures, all completed by non-professional artists that came from the ranks of the miners themselves. A full-sized functional cathedral, including the floors and chandeliers, are all carved from the raw salt. Other exhibits include legendary events and figures, again carved completely from salt, as well as many scenes taken from the Bible and Catholic tradition. Raw salt comes in various shades and clarity and have been used in artistic ways. Another popular use for the mines is for health purposes. A man-made microclimate was introduced into these caverns, and it is said that the controlled salt air is good for what ails you. People pay good money to spend time in these subterranean spas. Not far from Krakow, two small towns of Oświęcim and Brzezinka can be found. The German names for them are Auschwitz and Birkenau. Reliable records show that many people were put to death here during World War II. While the majority were Jews, people from all over Europe were held and executed here. The cynical message above the gate reads, "Work makes free." But ironically, the most usual freedom from this place came through death and the chimneys of the crematoriums. Today, Auschwitz is peaceful and quiet in contrast to once was here. Methods of death were firing squad, gassing, hanging, disease, and starvation, according to records. Once life was extinguished, the bodies were burned or buried in mass graves. Often survivors of the camps come years later to place personal memorials in remembrance of what took place. Auschwitz is now a state museum with many artifacts and original buildings from those times. Just down the road, Birkenau, one of the most photographed camps in the world, can be seen. For many prisoners, this building was the last one they would see. Many were selected for death shortly after passing through this gatehouse. Both living and dying conditions were severe here, with most bodies being relegated to the ovens at Birkenau's 4 crematoriums. Shortly before the camp was liberated, the crematoriums were systematically destroyed by the Germans, and this is what remains. One of Poland's premier castles is in the town of Malbork. The town is off the beaten path, but it is a nice little place to spend a sunny day or two. The pace is slow, and the castle is mostly restored with just a few ruined parts, just for flavor. The castle itself is genuine, and was once the home of the Teutonic Knights that once commanded this area of Poland. Creeks and a path, along with a river and beautiful countryside, is at your disposal here. As in most of Europe, the trains are the most reliable and the cheapest form of transportation, and travel nearly everywhere. Even though industry here is sparse, a great many tourists come from all over just to visit this special place. If you visit Poland, I urge you to stop by Malbork and enjoy the quiet found here. The 40 million person population of Poland, stuffed into an area a little larger than the state of Washington, means that just over any given hill there is another small town. The little town of Bardo is one of them. Bardo lies at the southern border, tucked into a valley near Czech. Little mountains surround it, and our friend and guide Peter Nowicki suggested a day hike for us. The weather and scenery was beautiful, and the only sounds were birds singing, leaves rustling, and the footfalls from our own feet. At the top of this short but steep little mountain, we found a concrete Catholic shrine. We could only guess at the tremendous feat it was just to bring the building materials to this spot. We also found this to be a great spot to rest, take pictures, and enjoy the beautiful vista below. On the return route, we stopped again to view the town below from the vantage point of the stainless steel cross planted near the summit. Many of Poland's large churches are dark and cold inside. Bardo's Cathedral was quite a treat and very colorful. The priest there also gave us a private showing of a special feature hidden in the basement. We rounded out our visit to Bardo by viewing this fully animated diorama depicting Polish and Catholic historical figures, past to present. As with most of the major cities in Poland, living in Wrocław is pretty much confined to mass housing, with parks in between them. In good weather, kids are everywhere. Just about everything a person might need can be found in Poland's idea of malls, or in a local market that may be located practically in the backyards of these malls. Another source for quick items are the little kiosks that are located anywhere there is an empty space, and right next to them it's not uncommon to find something quick to eat too. Getting around Wrocław, as in most larger Polish towns, is done by tram. Tram travel is usually cheap and efficient, with numerous stops covering large areas of territory. Wrocław's tram system has been electrified for more than 100 years. After the communist era ended in 1989, many people started buying and driving their own vehicles. Many times their first car was the 2.5-person Fiat Polski. But then walking is still a popular option. Wrocław straddles the Odra River, and this brought about the obvious need for bridges. More than 70 of them allow for quick movement around town, and several are quite unique in design. Points of interest abound, even in this industrial city. From the Old Town Square, museums, art displays, panorama, a huge circular painting, and underground restaurants located under strange-looking buildings. Also, there are quite a number of statues and monuments depicting historic Polish people and events, such as Poland's Copernicus. It is said that Poland's gross national product is its Catholic churches. In fact, in Wrocław, there is a whole island in the middle of the river, Ostrów Tumski, where quite a variety of them can be seen. Architecture here is quite varied. All eras are represented. This is especially amazing when one considers that the Nazis nearly leveled Wrocław on their way out of town during World War II. Wrocław's main train station is located on the east-west route that traces nearly a straight line from Western Europe to Russia. This busy station is quite clean, and a very large number of people pass through it daily. A very nice way to spend a day is at the People's Park, featuring the Hala Lodowa. Beside the beautiful park's flora and fauna, this magnificent building was constructed in 1913 and still serves as an exhibition hall and theater. Directly across the street from this park, Wrocław's world-class zoo is conveniently located with many exotic to the region exhibits. We'll move now to Poland's Baltic coast by train, where we arrive at Gdansk main station. Gdansk was called Danzig by the Germans and was the site of the first shots of World War II. Many years later, this city would play host to the mass shedding of communism in Central and Eastern Europe. Gdansk is a busy and rather clean seaport with clean air and numerous waterways. Visitors are treated by some rather good street musicians. In the Old Town section of Gdansk, one can find well cared for monuments of mythical and real characters. The scenery in and around the many channels, as well as shops and museums, offer a great place for a tourist to roam. The Baltic, by the way, is one of 2 places on Earth where amber is found. One can purchase it raw or mount it in abundance here. Even the side streets are picturesque, with even more little shops tucked into odd spaces and cellars. Portions of the old city walls are still intact in various places, and other monuments commemorating Polish history are worth looking at. Poland's Solidarity movement is a long story in itself, and in 1989 became the vehicle for the intense struggle for freedom that Poles, the Polish Pope, and the United States all worked for.
Yes.
As a result of these actions, quite a number of Polish Solidarity workers were wounded and killed, but eventually gained freedom for Poland and surrounding countries. The famous Solidarity Monument, along with plaques, memorials, and names, inhabit Plac Solidarności, along with the bloodstains from fallen freedom fighters. Warsaw, or Warszawa as it is known to Poles, is the country's current capital. This is a rebuilt city because of the mass destruction of World War II. Almost everything you see here was reduced literally to rubble. Today it is a peaceful place that exhibits big city routine. Warsaw has become very Western, but leftovers from Russian rule can be seen here and there too. Warsaw's history is evident in the Old Town section, and I even found reference to my family in the walls of the Stare Miasta, where saints and antennas share the rooftops. Probably the most stark and unavoidable reminder of Russian rule stands in the middle of town. The Ministry of Culture and Science building. Its main tourist value aren't the exhibits, but the great view from its towering heights. Among the notable Polish historical figures is Friedrich Chopin. In Warsaw's former palace grounds, now a national park, a huge rose garden and monument to him can be enjoyed by visitors. Other sites on the palace grounds include the home of the last Polish king and the summer palace itself. The setting is quite beautiful and a fine place to enjoy the wildlife and lush environment.